I never thought I'd be standing on my own front porch, trying to convince my parents to let me into a house that I bought. But there I was, key uselessly clutched in my hand, staring at the newly installed deadbolt that my spare key didn't fit. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and at 34, I'd built what most would consider a successful life. After years of hard work, I became a senior software architect at one of Silicon Valley's top tech companies. The salary was excellent, the stock options even better, and I'd managed to save aggressively while my peers splurged on luxury apartments and Tesla leases. But my parents, Tom and Linda Mitchell, hadn't been as fortunate. Dad's construction business had struggled after the recession, and Mom's part-time job at the local library barely covered groceries. They'd been living in the same cramped two-bedroom apartment for the past 5 years, their retirement savings depleted by medical bills and business debts. I'd always promised myself that when I could afford it, I'd buy them a proper home, a place where they could spend their golden years in comfort, where Mom could finally have the garden she'd always wanted, and Dad could set up the workshop he dreamed about. That dream became reality 6 months ago when my company went public. My stock options were worth enough to change lives, specifically my parents' lives. I still remember the day I drove them to see the house. A beautiful single-story ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood about an hour outside the city. "Sarah, honey, why are we looking at houses?" Mom had asked, confusion evident in her voice as we pulled into the driveway. "We can barely afford our apartment rent." "Just humor me," I'd said, trying to contain my excitement. "I think you'll like this one." The realtor, Jennifer, was waiting for us at the front door. She played along perfectly, showing my parents every feature of the house as if they were potential buyers. Mom fell in love with the spacious kitchen and the bay window overlooking the backyard. Dad's eyes lit up when he saw the attached garage with its built-in workbench. "It's perfect," Mom had whispered, then quickly added, "but we could never afford something like this." That's when I pulled out the folder containing the closing documents already signed and processed. "You don't have to afford it," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "It's yours. I bought it for you." The look on their faces, shock, disbelief, joy, made every overtime hour, every saved dollar, worth it. Mom burst into tears, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. Dad, never one for emotional displays, had to turn away to wipe his eyes. "We can't accept this," Dad had protested weakly, even as his eyes kept roaming the space that could be his workshop. "You can and you will," I insisted. "You supported me through college, helped me get my first internship, believed in me when no one else did. This is my way of saying thank you." They moved in the next month. I helped them settle in, bought new furniture to fill the larger space, even hired a landscaper to start Mom's garden. Every weekend for the first few months, I'd drive out to visit, bringing groceries and helping them adjust to the new house. My younger brother, Mike, thought I was crazy. "You just gave them a house," he'd said incredulously over the phone. "Why didn't you invest that money or buy yourself something nice?" "They're our parents," I'd replied simply. "They deserve this." Mike lived across the country in Boston, pursuing his medical residency. He'd always been the smart one, according to our parents, despite my higher grades and more stable career. But he was also perpetually broke, always too busy with his studies to help Mom and Dad financially. The first sign that something was wrong came about 4 months after they moved in. My usual Sunday visit was met with an oddly cold reception. Mom, normally eager to show me her latest gardening projects, barely made eye contact. Dad spent most of the time in his workshop, emerging only for a tense dinner where the conversation felt forced. "Is everything okay?" I asked as I helped Mom with the dishes. "You seem different." "Everything's fine," she said quickly, too quickly. "We're just adjusting to the new place." The next weekend, they had plans when I called to arrange my visit. The weekend after that, they were under the weather. Soon, my weekly visits dwindled to occasional phone calls that grew shorter and more awkward. Then came the day I tried to use my key and found it didn't work. I'd driven out on a Wednesday afternoon, worried about their increasingly distant behavior. Mom hadn't answered my calls for 3 days, and Dad's texts had been uncharacteristically short. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed changes: new curtains in the windows, a different welcome mat on the porch, and most significantly, a new security system panel by the front door. My key didn't fit the lock. I tried again, thinking I must have used the wrong key, but no, the lock had been changed. I rang the doorbell, hearing it chime inside the house. Through the decorative glass panels flanking the door, I could see movement. "Mom? Dad?" I called out. "It's Sarah. My key isn't working." I heard whispered conversation, then Dad's voice, surprisingly firm. "This is our house now. You're not welcome here." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What are you talking about?" "Dad, I bought this house. I have a key for a reason." "We've been talking to a lawyer." Mom's voice joined in, though she still wouldn't open the door. "He says since we've been living here, paying the utilities and maintaining the property, we have rights. We're not going to let you control us with your money anymore." I stood there stunned. Control them? All I'd ever wanted was to give them the comfortable retirement they deserved. How had my gift turned into something so twisted? "Mom, please open the door. We need to talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," Dad replied. "The locks have been changed and we've filed a restraining order. If you don't leave, we'll call the police." A restraining order? Against their own daughter. I felt dizzy, gripping the porch railing for support. Through the glass, I caught a glimpse of Mom's face, tight with an emotion I couldn't read, before she disappeared into the darkness of the house. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Mike. "Mom and Dad told me what you did. Using money to manipulate them. Real classy, sis." I stared at the message, then at the closed door, then at my useless key. The beautiful house I bought out of love had somehow become a fortress being used against me. As I walked back to my car on shaking legs, I pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. One to my lawyer and one to the property records office. My parents had no idea what they just started. Sometimes the biggest gifts come with the hardest lessons, and I was about to teach them one they'd never forget. The next morning, I sat in my lawyer's office, surrounded by property documents and bank statements. Diana Chen had been handling my legal affairs since my company's IPO, and her reputation for being both brilliant and ruthless was well earned. "Let me get this straight," Diana said, peering at me over her reading glasses. "You purchased a $350,000 house for your parents, put it in your name, and now they've changed the locks and filed a restraining order against you." I nodded, my throat tight. "They claim I was using the house to control them. That because they've been living there and maintaining it, they have rights to it." Diana's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her desk. "They're partially correct about tenant rights, but they're forgetting one crucial detail. They never signed a lease. There's no rental agreement, no documented arrangement of any kind. You've been paying the property taxes. The deed is in your name. Legally, they're guests who have overstayed their welcome." "I don't want to evict them," I said quickly. "I just want to understand what's happening. This isn't like them." "Someone's been giving them legal advice," Diana mused, flipping through the papers. "Bad legal advice, but still. Have they been spending time with anyone new? Someone who might have put these ideas in their heads?" I thought about it, then remembered something Mom had mentioned in passing during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. "There's a new couple in their neighborhood. The Harrises. Mom said Mr. Harris used to be a lawyer before he retired." Diana made a note. "I'll look into him. In the meantime, we need to protect your interests. I'm going to file a counter motion against their restraining order. It's baseless and won't hold up in court. Then we'll send a formal notice asserting your property rights." "Will that make things worse?" "Sarah," Diana leaned forward, her expression softening slightly. "Things are already worse. Your parents have legally barred you from property you own and are accusing you of emotional manipulation. We need to handle this properly, or you could lose more than just your relationship with them." As I left Diana's office, my phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Way to go, sis. Sending lawyers after our parents. Real nice." I pulled over into a parking lot, my hands shaking too much to drive. How did he even know about Diana already? I called him. He answered on the last ring. "What?" "Mike, you don't know the whole story." "I know enough," he cut me off. "Mom and Dad told me everything. How you bought them the house but kept it in your name so you could hold it over their heads. How you showed up unannounced all the time, criticizing their choices, trying to control their lives." "That's not true," I protested. "I bought them the house as a gift. They're the ones who suddenly changed the locks and filed a restraining order. Because they finally stood up to you." Mike's voice was cold. "You know what your problem is, Sarah? You think because you make good money, you can buy people. Well, Mom and Dad aren't for sale. The line went dead. I sat in my car, staring at the phone, feeling like I'd stepped into some bizarre alternate reality where everything I'd done out of love was being twisted into something ugly. That evening, I went through old family photos on my laptop, trying to understand where it all went wrong. There we were at my college graduation, Mom crying happy tears, Dad beaming with pride. Christmas 2 years ago, all of us in matching sweaters. The day they moved into the new house, Mom planting her first rose bush, Dad organizing his tools in the garage. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find a process server holding more legal documents. My parents were now suing me for emotional distress and demanding ownership of the house be transferred to them. The lawsuit was ridiculous, full of wild accusations. According to the filing, I had weaponized financial support to maintain control, had invaded their privacy with constant unannounced visits, and had created a hostile living environment through persistent criticism and manipulation. Diana called within the hour. "Don't worry," she said. "This complaint is going nowhere." But Sarah, I found something interesting about the Harrises. What? Robert Harris was disbarred 5 years ago for running real estate scams. He would befriend retirees, convince them their children were taking advantage of them, then help them seize property assets. He usually got a cut of the proceeds. My blood ran cold. So this was his idea? He's manipulating my parents? Almost certainly, but proving it will be tricky. Your parents have to want to listen to the truth. The next day, I drove to their neighborhood and parked down the street from their house. My house. After an hour, I saw them leave with an older couple I didn't recognize. Presumably the Harrises. They looked happy, laughing as they got into the Harrises' car. Mom was wearing new clothes, expensive ones, judging by the designer bag on her arm. Dad had a new golf bag slung over his shoulder. I frowned. Where had they gotten the money for luxury items? A horrible suspicion formed in my mind. I called Diana. "Can you find out if they've taken out a home equity loan?" There was typing on her end. "Give me a minute." Yes. They attempted to, but were denied because they're not the legal owners. However, there is a personal loan taken out against their car. And Sarah, there are new credit cards opened in their names with large balances. "The Harrises," I said grimly. "They're bleeding my parents dry while convincing them I'm the enemy." "We need to move fast," Diana agreed. "I'm filing an emergency injunction today." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Mom and Dad, about how excited they'd been when I first showed them the house, about how something meant to bring us closer had torn us apart. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "This is Robert Harris. Perhaps we should talk about resolving this situation amicably. Say, over coffee tomorrow?" I forwarded the message to Diana, who responded immediately. "Do not meet with him. Do not respond. We've got him now." But as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder how many other families Harris had destroyed, how many other relationships he poisoned with his toxic manipulation. My parents weren't perfect, but they'd raised me with love, supported my dreams, celebrated my successes. Now they were being turned against me by a disbarred lawyer with a history of elder exploitation, and I couldn't even warn them because they wouldn't open their door. Sometimes love means making hard choices. Sometimes protecting the people you care about means being willing to be the bad guy in their story, at least for a while. I picked up my phone and started typing an email to Diana. "Here's what I want to do." Diana's plan was set in motion on a crisp Monday morning. I watched from my parked car as a team of professional movers pulled up to the house. My house, in their large truck. Behind them, a police cruiser arrived, lights off but presence unmistakable. Diana stood at the curb in her impeccable suit, clipboard in hand. The night before, she'd explained everything. "We're not just going after your parents, Sarah. We're taking down Harris. My investigation found 12 other families he's done this to. 5 lost their homes. 3 went bankrupt. 1 elderly couple died in poverty after he drained their accounts." I saw Mom open the front door, Dad appearing behind her. Even from a distance, I could see their faces pale at the sight of the moving truck. Mr. Harris's silver Mercedes came screeching around the corner. Someone must have called him. Diana had prepared me for this moment. "Don't get out of the car," she'd warned. "No matter what you hear or see, let the legal process work." Harris stormed up to Diana, jabbing his finger in her face. Even through my closed car windows, I could hear his shouting. This is illegal. They have resident rights. Diana's voice was calm but carried clearly. Mr. Harris, as you well know, given your former legal career, or should I say, before you were disbarred, this property belongs to Sarah Mitchell. These movers are here to carefully pack and inventory all of Tom and Linda Mitchell's personal belongings. I saw Mom grab Dad's arm, their faces shocked at the mention of Harris being disbarred. But Harris wasn't done. I'll call the police. They're already here, Diana gestured to the cruiser. And they have some questions for you about the $45,000 in credit card debt Tom and Linda Mitchell have somehow accumulated in the past 2 months, not to mention the other families you've targeted. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad took a step back. I could see their world crumbling as the truth emerged. Tom, Linda, Diana called out. I have documentation proving Mr. Harris was disbarred 5 years ago for running real estate scams targeting retirees. I also have evidence of him attempting to do the same to you. Would you like to see it? Harris turned to run, but found 2 police officers blocking his path. Mrs. Harris's car appeared, but seeing the scene, she quickly reversed and sped away. One of the officers spoke into his radio. I watched as Diana approached my parents, holding out a thick folder. Mom took it with trembling hands. They stood on the porch, flipping through pages, their faces growing paler with each document. The police were handcuffing Harris now. I heard phrases like elder financial abuse and criminal conspiracy float through the air. Then Mom did something that broke my heart. She crumpled to the porch steps, sobbing. Dad sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders, looking 20 years older than he had just moments ago. Diana glanced toward my car, giving me a subtle nod. This was the moment we discussed, the hardest part of the plan. I stayed in my car. The movers will pack your belongings, Diana told my parents. You have 2 hours to gather any immediate necessities. The truck will deliver everything to a storage facility, where you can access it once you've secured new housing. Where are we supposed to go? Dad's voice cracked. That's not my concern, Diana replied, though we carefully scripted this part. My client has covered your living expenses far beyond any legal obligation. You chose to abuse her generosity, file false charges against her, and participate in a criminal conspiracy to steal her property. She owes you nothing more. Mom looked up, tears streaming down her face. Please, can we talk to Sarah? Ms. Mitchell has made it clear that all communication must go through me, Diana said firmly. Now shall we begin the inventory? I gripped my steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, fighting every instinct to run to them, to say it was okay, to fix everything like I always did. But Diana had made me understand, sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. The next 2 hours were torture. I watched as the movers carefully packed my parents' belongings. Mom's garden tools, Dad's workshop equipment, the family photos I'd helped them hang. Diana supervised everything, making sure it was done properly and legally. My parents aged before my eyes. They moved numbly through the house, pointing out what was theirs versus what I had bought with the house. Every now and then, they'd look around hopefully, but I stayed hidden in my car. Finally, the truck was loaded. My parents stood on the front walk with 2 small suitcases, looking lost. Diana handed them a packet of papers. This envelope contains the storage facility information and their inventory. It also includes documentation of all financial transactions, Mr. Harris's criminal history, and copies of the criminal complaints filed against him today. She paused, then added the final piece of our script. I've been authorized to inform you that a room has been booked and paid for in your names at the Extended Stay Hotel on Miller Road. 1 week only. What you do after that is your decision. Mom started to speak, but Diana held up her hand. The hotel reservation is a courtesy, not a negotiation point. Good day. I watched through tears as my parents climbed into their old car, the one they'd taken a personal loan against on Harris's advice. As they drove away, Diana walked to my car and tapped on the window. That was the hardest part, she said as I rolled it down. Are you okay? I shook my head. No, but it was necessary, wasn't it? Yes, she squeezed my arm. They needed to see the truth for themselves. No amount of you telling them would have worked. Harris had them too convinced you were the enemy. What happens now? Now, Diana straightened her jacket. We wait. They'll have time to read through everything to understand how Harris manipulated them. to realize what they almost lost, and not just the house. And if they don't, then you'll know you did everything you could to protect them, even from themselves. I looked at the house, my house, standing empty now except for the furniture I'd bought. The garden Mom had planted was blooming, but she wouldn't be here to see her roses flower. Have maintenance come tomorrow, I said. Change the locks again, reset the security system, and put it on the market. Diana's eyebrows rose. Are you sure? Yes, I said firmly. I bought this house out of love, but now it's tainted. Whether they eventually understand or not, I don't want to keep it. Something that was meant to bring us together shouldn't tear us apart. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of Mom's rose bushes in my rearview mirror. Sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is letting them face the truth, even when it hurts. I just hope that somewhere in those documents, somewhere in the quiet of their hotel room, my parents would remember who had really been on their side all along. 3 weeks passed. The house sold quickly. The real estate market was hot, and Diana had priced it aggressively. I threw myself into work, trying not to think about where my parents were or what they were doing. Mike had stopped texting angry messages, his silence somehow worse than his accusations. I'd moved their belongings to a climate-controlled storage facility, paid for 6 months in advance. The receipt showed they'd accessed it twice, but I didn't ask what they'd taken or where they were living now. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, an envelope arrived at my office. I recognized Mom's handwriting immediately. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a check for $45,000. A note fell out with it. Dearest Sarah, we sold our car, cashed in Dad's life insurance policy, and took out a small loan from the bank. This should cover the credit card debt we accumulated under Harris' influence. We know it doesn't begin to repay everything else we owe you, not just financially, but emotionally. We've read through all the documents Diana provided, over and over. We saw what Harris did to other families, what he was planning to do to us. But mostly, we saw what we did to you. You gave us a beautiful gift, and we let a stranger convince us it was a weapon. You visited us because you loved us, and we twisted that into control. You protected us even when we hurt you, and we called it manipulation. We're staying with your Aunt Carol right now. She knocked some sense into us too. Made us see how badly we betrayed not just your trust, but your love. The house, we understand why you sold it. We would have done the same. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. But maybe relationships can be, if there's enough love and truth to rebuild them. We don't expect forgiveness. We don't even expect a response to this letter. But we want you to know that we understand now. We see what we did. We see who you are, our daughter who has always taken care of us, who has always loved us, even when we didn't deserve it. If you ever want to talk, we're ready to listen. All our love, Mom and Dad. I sat at my desk for a long time, letter in one hand, check in the other. Diana's voice echoed in my mind. Sometimes people have to hit bottom before they can see the truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Mike. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Can we talk? I looked at the family photo on my desk, taking the day I'd given them the house keys. We were all smiling, full of hope and love. That moment couldn't be recaptured, but maybe something new could grow from its ashes. I picked up my phone and dialed Aunt Carol's number. It rang twice before Mom answered. Sarah? Her voice was tentative, afraid. Hi, Mom. I took a deep breath. I got your letter. Oh, honey, she started to cry. Don't cry, Mom. Just, can we meet somewhere? Maybe that coffee shop you like? Yes, she said quickly. Yes, please. Your father's here too. Good, I said softly. Bring him along. We have a lot to talk about. As I hung up, I looked at the check again. Then I took out an envelope, wrote college fund for Harris's victims' grandchildren on it, and slipped the check inside. Some debts need to be repaid, but others need to be transformed into something better. The house was gone, but maybe that was okay. A home isn't just walls and a roof. It's the people who love you, even when they mess up. It's the relationships that bend but don't break. It's the truth that comes after the lies and the love that survives the pain. I grabbed my keys and headed out. My parents were waiting, and this time, no locks would keep us apart.